Well, I think we're live now, but I know that we're not. I know that we're not using the actual. I'm pretty sure we're not coming in clear. But welcome. Let's try this all over again. Welcome. Channelside in the morning. Not sure what's happening, but you know what? We're back. We're doing it. We're trying to get everything back restored and in order. Yeah, hey, here's what it is what it is. Look, as I started at the top of the show, if you head over to the Channelside Sports Shop, 100% of all of the proceeds will be donated to the American Red Cross for the Hurricane Ian relief efforts. For those of you who don't know, my wife and I, she spent her entire life down in Naples. I spent the majority of my life in Naples, and just seeing the destruction of Fort Myers and Naples, and just our home area it's been kind of tough. But nonetheless, we will rebuild. Florida strong, right, baby? That's what we say. Florida strong. Nonetheless, NHL preseason is underway. NBA preseason is underway. The Rays are in the playoffs. The Bucs are struggling to find their identity, but man, regardless of the struggles for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which we will get into, regardless of that, guys, October is the best month for sports. You can't tell me it's not. You can't. There's no debate. You can't tell me that October is not the best month for sports, especially when you live in an area where your teams are good. That's the best part for me, is that we've got good teams, and that's what makes it all the better in the world. I mean, to me, call me crazy, but I couldn't be any more excited for sports right now, and you guys shouldn't be too. Realistically, you guys should be very excited for everything that's happening sports-wise as well, because this is it, man. October is the month, right? Because hockey will be the regular season for both the Bolts and the Magic will commence by the end of this month. The Rays are in the playoffs. The playoffs are starting in a week. I mean, the time is now, and I don't know how much more excited I could be. Would it be nice if the Bucs were 3-1 or 4-0? Yeah, it would be. I know everybody is kind of reeling from the Sunday night effort. Obviously losing 2 games back to back to contenders is kind of alarming. And like I said, we'll talk about the Buccaneers' struggles to kind of find an identity. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. I do want to run through the slate that happened for Week 4. You know what? I guess we can bookend it here. Well, let's start with the Dolphins and the Bengals on Thursday. Obviously, we didn't talk about that because there was no show yesterday or Friday. It's tough to know where you need to begin for this, right? Honestly, it really is, because you look and go, okay, well, there's obviously a larger issue at hand than what happened, than the game itself. Obviously, I'm talking about Tua Tagovailoa, who should not have been out there regardless. And look, we can have anybody go, oh, well, you're just a Facebook doctor, or you're a social media doctor. We've watched, and I say we because I'm aware of currently who's watching live, right? We've watched professional wrestling long enough in our lives to know what it looks like when somebody's actually got a concussion. Unfortunately, a lot of professional wrestlers, especially back in the day, in the 90s and prior, a lot of those guys would have concussions and then just kind of dust it off and go back and finish the match, or they'd go back out and they'd be out there next week or on the next show or what have you. But we were dumb and we were null. Like, we didn't know much about concussions at the time. And that's the problem. And we know a lot about concussions now. And that's the thing is we're much smarter. We're much smarter when it comes to learning about concussions, knowing about concussions. We're much smarter than that. And that's the problem, is we know better. Right? As a people, we know better now. And come to find out, it was not a back injury. And I did give them the benefit of the doubt. And obviously by them I'm saying the doctors, because I've had my back kind of go out on me before, and you do collapse. You do kind of just fall down. But I never hit my head on the ground super hard prior to that happening. I didn't get up and shake my head prior to fall. You know what I mean? So there are different aspects of it where you look at it and go, all right, yeah, that's kind of problematic for me. I kind of have an issue with that. And we all should have issues with that. Right? That's realistically, that's what that boils down to, is we should have issues with Tua being cleared. Now, I know he was gone for 45 real-time minutes, and we kind of saw something similar with Cameron Brate, which we'll talk about as well, because Todd Bowles addressed that yesterday. Obviously, as concussions are the huge topic and talking point across the NFL. But now the report's out that there's several errors that were done with the evaluation of Tua, and that's just, to me, that's a problem. That's a problem. You can't do that. You can't have all of these issues and all of these glaring problems when you're evaluating brain injuries. Sure, a concussion sounds cute, but a concussion is literally nothing more than a brain injury, and that's a problem. You can't have brain injuries and expect good things to happen. So, of course, Tua gets whipped down. To me, that was kind of that was almost like a violent sack as well. I mean, that looked like a Brock Lesnar German suplex. But then the posturing. And that's where you realize, oh crap, this is serious. Because this is now the second traumatic hit to the brain that Tua has had in 4 days? And now we've got a bigger problem. I was talking to my buddy Jeff Risden, who is he's the managing editor for the Lions Wire over at USA Today, and he put out an article for Real GM, and we were kind of talking and trying to kind of go back and forth, and I was like, my big question for everybody right now, my big question for everybody is, how many times are the Dolphins going to be allowed to break a rule before they are held accountable? And I don't mean, telling Stephen Ross, you got to pay a fine and you're suspended, because the owner didn't do anything during the season. That's why they show Jerry Jones so many times at the games, because he's the only owner that does stuff, because he's also the general manager of the Cowboys. Whether you like him or not, I mean, that he's always there, and he does have his hands very deeply intertwined in the day-to-day activities of the Cowboys. Stephen Ross, not so much. But when do we look and when do we say, all right, look, guys, we need you Stephen Ross is out. Give Stephen Ross the Donald Sterling treatment. Make him sell the team off. You have to do these things. Because what you're saying is now that we already have the narrative that you can be violent towards women and kind of get away with it in the NFL, right? There's already, that narrative is already there. But now we're saying, we do have these concussion protocols, and this is a big thing. I mean, we're making players wear the Guardian caps during training camp. We're always monitoring head trauma. We're trying to improve the helmets every year. But you know what? It's okay that your doctors lied and allowed this guy to go back out and allowed this guy to go and play. And that's, to me, that's problematic. And you can't do that. So when do you force Stephen Ross to sell the team? Right? When do you force Stephen Ross to sell the team? You have to have he has to sell the team. You have to clean house. And I'm not talking about, like Mike McDaniel. I know a lot of people were giving Mike McDaniel crap in the press conference after the game, where he basically said, hey, Tua has a concussion and that's it. It's good to know. And like he was very vanilla about it, but that's because he didn't have all the information. And he's not the person that's at liberty to go off the cuff. And he's smarter than all of us that are going to watch this show live and on repeat. He's got a degree from Yale. Like he's an Ivy League graduate. He's a very smart guy. And there's a reason why he is a good head coach already. There was a reason why he was a good offensive coordinator. Because he's a smart guy. He understands the game. He understands people. He understands how to communicate. So when we sit here and go, man, like Mike McDaniel has very limited information, and that's the information that he's giving out, is what I have. He's got a concussion, and that's it. Because, look, people were worried. People were genuinely worried, like, does Tua have more than a concussion? Does he have... No, he has a concussion, that's it. And that, like, what more do you want him to say? I'm pretty sure that Mike McDaniel didn't say at a Holiday Inn Express on Wednesday night, and he's not a doctor. So he can't give us specific information like that, right? Like, he just can't because he doesn't have it. He's got limited information, and this is the problem. Now, should Mike McDaniel have... Should he have taken precautionary measures on Sunday when he got injured against the Bills? Possibly. I mean, possibly he should have. But if the doctors are clearing him, that's your best player. You play with your best players so you have the best opportunity to win. And that's the thing is, does he know that the doctor made mistakes? I'm sure he doesn't know the doctor made mistakes. He's got 52 other players he's trying to rally while Tua's being evaluated, right? Like there's problems and there's inconsistencies with people's thought processes on this. And that's the part that I struggle with. Jay in the chat says it's obvious Tua has a severe concussion. They cleared him with a doctor they found on Wish. I mean, yeah, it's true. I mean, and in the breaking news yesterday that everybody's breaking. Oh, Mike McDaniel says that Tua's going to be out next week. Oh, you don't say. Well, like, why is that breaking news? That should have been just a regular report. It didn't have to be breaking news. Tua's going to miss next week. You think? He's had 2 concussions in 4 days, man. Tua's probably going to be out for the next 2 to 3 weeks, if not longer. And you got to, and it's worrisome because this kid's career could be over quicker than we knew, right? It could be quick. It could be over very quickly. Let him get one more concussion this year. And then this kid's never going to play football again. And it's sad. It's a violent sport. We know that. We love that. But you have to do better. And that's where it starts for me, is you have to do better. And if you're not going to do better, then what are we doing? Right? That's the way I look at it. So I said I wanted to bookend this. I don't want to go too far off the rails because I do want to cover the Sunday slate. But we got to talk about the Buccaneers, man. I know right now there's a lot of the, oh, we're not worried. It's only week 4. We should be fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry. You're an idiot if you're panicking. Like, first of all, nobody's I'm sure there's people that are panicking, but you shouldn't be panicking about the Buccaneers team. They are lacking an identity because regardless of them being 2-2, they have not put together a complete game on both sides of the ball yet. The defense was really good for the first 2 weeks. The offense, not as good. The defense was pretty good on against Green Bay. It held them to 14 points. The offense couldn't find anything. Sunday night, the defense absolutely gashed in every aspect of the game. The offense moved the ball pretty well. Like, there's problems. There's trouble in paradise down here. And look, we're not gonna talk about. I don't want to start with the defense. What I want to do is I want to start with the offense. I've been very vocal where this is where I love football, because if you're willing to have a conversation and you're willing to have an actual real debate, I'm all for it. I'm your guy. When I said that Mike Evans would not make a difference in the outcome of the Green Bay and Tampa Bay game, I'm not talking about Mike Evans is not an adequate player. We know Mike Evans is the first ballot Hall of Famer. But what I'm talking about is the offensive line does not give Brady enough time to make any reads. He gets his first read, his second read, and has to make a decision. He should be running with split backs at that point and have both Rachaad White and Leonard Fournette in the backfield to give him extra time, if that's the case. Through all 4 weeks, through all 4 games, I'm going to read you some very horrific numbers. These are the pass block grades for our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tristan Wirfs, 84.9. Best on the team, 84.9 is very solid. Cameron Brate, 80.5. Second best blocker on the team in the passing game. That's right. Mr. Cameron Brate can't block. We brought in Kyle Rudolph because Cameron Brate can't block. We brought in Keith because Cameron Brate can't block, is the second best pass blocker on the team right now. Cade Otton, 80.3. Keith, 76.4. Number 5 blocker, Kyle Rudolph, 67.6. So if you're trying to keep up and keep tallies here, so far we've got 1 offensive lineman followed by all 4 tight ends. And then we get back to our offensive line. We've got Shaq Mason, 65.1. Walton's at 64.3. Robert Hainsey's at 62.7. Josh Wells, 48.6. Donovan Smith, 43.6. Leonard Fournette, 29.4. And why you might be asking, why am I bringing up the running backs? Well, because I haven't even mentioned Luke Gedeke yet, who's got a 25.9 grade on this season in pass block. 25.9. And then Rachaad White's got a 22.3. This is your problem on offense. This is your problem right here on offense, is nobody can protect Brady. Brady has no protection. Brady looks here's the thing. Tom Brady looks every bit of 45. He really does. He had a great game. Against the Chiefs on Sunday night. This is his best game of the season for passer rating and for yards and completions. But Tom Brady is looking mortal. He's looking mortal. He's not looking immortal because he has to be on the run for his life on damn near every play this season. And you can't expect good things to happen when you've got a pocket quarterback who's not mobile, who's also 45 years old. Regardless of Tom Brady being the greatest quarterback of all time, you can't expect good things to happen when your immobile pocket passing quarterback has to become mobile. There's a reason why. There's a reason why Tom Brady said, I can turn a 40-yard gain into an 18-yard gain faster than anybody in the league because he's slow. He's not a running quarterback, and we know that. And there's nothing wrong with Tom Brady, especially knowing what we know about how great of a quarterback he is. There's nothing wrong with knowing that and being able to accept that, right? There's not. But if you can't block, if you're telling me that you've got almost a 20-point grade difference between offensive linemen, between Tristan Wirfs and Shaq Mason, like we'll give Donovan Smith a pass because he got injured and he came back with the hyperextended elbow. And, you know, I don't know. It's crazy. You know, Jay in the chat says Ryan Jensen's not coming back. Aaron Stinney's not coming back. We're kind of screwed on the line, and you're 100% correct. You know, after the poor defensive showing against the Kansas City Chiefs, we've got a lot of people sitting here going, "Well, we need to re-sign Rob Gronkowski. We need more weapons for Tom." We don't need weapons for Tom Brady. Tom Brady's got the weapons. We don't need weapons for Tom Brady. We don't need Rob Gronkowski. Cameron Brate played a solid game. Kyle Rudolph's been a little disappointed because he's been injured. Cade Otton, kind of not really been a factor, but he's the third best pass blocker on the team right now. O'Keefe, fourth best pop, and caught that great catch on the sideline. We don't need Gronk. We don't need Ndamukong Suh. We realistically, we don't need Ndamukong Suh. The defense has played one bad game against a team that none of us thought were going to be very good anyway. And that's the thing, is like we have to remember, everybody was pretty much unanimous outside of Kansas City Chiefs fans that the Chiefs were going to fall off the map this year after losing Tyreek Hill. Juju Smith-Schuster has found his way. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has started up getting hot. I mean, Kansas City's way better than anybody expected them to be, right? Like that's what it boils down to. Is Kansas City thought nobody thought that they would be where they are right now. Like, but we need to address this offensive line. We've got cap space. We've got tradable assets. Cut Scotty Miller, for Christ's sake. Scotty Miller didn't even play in the last game and still leads the team in drops. Probably not going to get much for Scotty Miller, though. But we need to be we need to get on the phone. Jason Light needs to get on the phone. Bruce Arians needs to get on the phone. Now we're starting to understand when all these Manchester United people are flooding our Twitter with hashtag Glazers out. I'm just kidding. The Glazers are for the Buccaneers. I mean, the Glazers are fine. But you have to address the offensive line. I don't know how many weeks we can say this. I don't. And what scares me is the lack of addressing the offensive line. The problem for me is we know the offensive line needed to be addressed the moment Ryan Jensen went down with a knee injury. Right? Like we knew that. And I've been also very adamant about Ryan Jensen statistically is not the greatest blocker. But you can't replace the leadership, and you can't replace the pre-snap reads. You can't replace that. You can replicate and you can replace blocking stats, right? But those are intangibles that Ryan Jensen provides the team that you can't replace, and Robert Ainsley's not stepping up. Who's going to step up and fill that? Is Donovan Smith going to step up? Is Shaq Mason going to step up? Somebody's got to step up for this team. Somebody has to step up and figure this out. And there's we can get a 2026 sixth round pick for Scotty Miller. That's probably correct. That's not good. Like we can't expect that. We can't expect. Look, I know J.C. Treader retired, but maybe you have to address the line. And I get when Todd Bowles is questioned about the line and they say, we're confident in the guys we have. I get it. You don't want to sit here and say, yeah, our guys suck. Our guys are struggling. We don't really like our guys. You don't do that, right? You can't. But you've got to figure it out, man. You've got to figure out what is going on. You have to address the line because it's going to... Here's the thing, it's going to be a very, very long season for Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans. If we can't figure this out, it's going to be a very long season for us. It's going to, we're very lucky, right? The way that the Buccaneers have looked through 4 weeks, we're lucky that we're in the NFC South, where you've got a rebuilding Panthers team, a rebuilding Falcons team, and another team in the New Orleans Saints that is struggling to find its identity. We're lucky because we have way better pieces and way better assets on the Buccaneers team. And for some reason, it's just not coming together right now when the vast majority of the squad has been together for several years. Which just makes me wonder, where is it going wrong? Is it Todd Bowles? We know Todd Bowles he's not Bruce Arians. He's not an animated guy. He's not a rah-rah guy like Bruce Arians is. And maybe that's what this team needs. Maybe that's what they need. I'll use the example to Jim Caldwell in Detroit. Jim Caldwell got the Lions to the playoffs. Jim Caldwell had a winning record every year he was in Detroit. But here's the problem. Jim Caldwell, when the team needed him to step up and show some fire and show some emotion, he didn't have that. That wasn't what he wasn't able to rally the troops. And that's what I'm wondering if Todd Bowles can't do. Is if he doesn't have that extra gear to sit there and go, let's get it, guys. Come on, and rally the troops. I'm kind of nervous. Jay in the chat says the Falcons will probably beat us this week, so then reality will hit and we'll look for linemen then. The Falcons, I don't know how many times Evan and I talked about the Falcons in the preseason that we got to watch out for the Falcons because people they're not focused on the Falcons. There was next to no chat about what was going on in Atlanta. And that's always a scary thing because that means that there's a team this team's flying under the radar. They're playing like they've got nothing to lose. What's Marcus Mariota going to do if this is probably Marcus Mariota's last chance of being a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's going to go balls out every game. He's going to play to the absolute best of his ability on every single snap. Desmond Ridler's not going to be a bad quarterback. Cordero Patterson going down with a knee injury and being placed on IR. That's the only thing that is kind of holding back the Atlanta Falcons now. Drake London's has kind of come on these last couple weeks. Kyle Pitts has kind of fallen by the wayside, but Kyle Pitts is a top 5 tight end in the NFL. He'll find his way. Kyle Pitts will figure it out, and he will find his way. I do wonder if the Falcons beat the Buccaneers on Sunday, and we happen to fall 2-3. Is that the point where you go, all right, guys, we really need to figure this out? Like, is that the point? You know, is that where we're looking and going, all right, guys, we gotta, like, I don't know. You gotta look out for it. We'll start Sunday slate here. We'll start it off. First game on Sunday. Who woke up at 9:30 in the morning to watch the Saints and Vikings? This guy did. I love when there's international games and they start early in the morning, man. To me, I love it. I love being able to watch football from sun up to sundown on a Sunday. I ask for 1 day a week. That's all I care about. Is just 1 day a week. That's all I want. And when it's sun up to sundown, it's perfect. This was an exciting game. A lot of times when we see the international games, they're not that great, right? They're really they're kind of snooze fest. They're not the greatest. But I'll tell you what, this was a fun game. The Vikings get it done 28-25 with the field goal at the end. And the Vikings are a team that nobody's giving credit for because of Kirk Cousins. And I get it. You know, but like I don't understand why. I don't understand why Kirk Cousins gets so much flack when we know that he's going to finish in the top 6 in damn near every statistical category. We know that. That's what he does. Kirk Cousins is a solid quarterback. He sucks in prime. He sucks on the big stage. Good news for the Vikings, they don't get very many primetime games. They don't get many big games. So they'll finish the regular season strong. They'll choke in the playoffs, much like Aaron Rodgers does. You know, like, I don't know. Cleveland drops their games to Atlanta, 23-20. Jacoby Brissett put together a good game. Here's the thing about the Falcons, is the Falcons are finding ways to get it done. Right, they're 2-2 on the season. The Browns are now 2-2. Jacoby Brissett led the team. He led the game in passing. Nick Chubb led the game in rushing, and David Njoku led the game in receiving. But they came up short. The Falcons are just finding ways to get things done, which is exactly what you expect from a rebuilding team, is finding a way to get things done, and that's what they're doing. So you can't look at the Falcons and not be... Look, I know that the Falcons don't have Cordero Patterson for at least the next 4 weeks. I know that they don't have him for at least 4 weeks. But we'll see if they can get it done in the passing game. We'll see it. Maybe Marcus Mariota can step it up. Maybe Marcus Mariota gets replaced and Desmond Riddler comes in. You know, maybe that's what happens. Never know. I had a NFC East matchup. Cowboys 25, Washington Commanders 10. I played Cooper Rush in excuse me. I played Cooper Rush in all of my DFS lineups, and I wasn't mad at it because he got me some pretty solid points. I had Jared Goff in a lot of them too, which is Jared Goff is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL for the Detroit Lions. Think about that for a second. But we knew the Cowboys were going to have a solid defense. You know, Michael Gallup is back. Zeke only got 49 yards on the ground. CeeDee Lamb turned it on, 6 receptions for 97 yards and a score. And this is the Cowboys team that I was expecting to see this year. Is, you know, obviously not a solid offensive unit because you lost Amari Cooper. And you didn't really you didn't replace him with anybody. You just kind of shuffled everybody up. And you didn't have Michael Gallup. Now he's back. Now he's going to make a little bit of a difference. Obviously, you expect Dak Prescott to be out there, but Cooper Rush is stepping up and he's playing his role properly. That's what you expect from Cooper Rush. So I'm not shocked that the Cowboys are 3-1. Especially playing against the Commanders, because look, Carson Wentz is not a good quarterback. I know that there's still Eagles fans that are like, yeah, we thought he was going to be our guy for the, and it sucks that he wasn't. What blah 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 blah. Whatever. Carson Wentz is not a good quarterback. You got to move on from Carson Wentz. Terry McLaurin is a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL who is non-existent. Antonio Gibson was a top 13 rusher last year. Not existent. Because Carson Wentz does that to your offenses. Shootout. Over 1,000 yards of offense. Seattle Seahawks 48. Detroit Lions 45. Seattle did not punt one time. Geno Smith is looking like the MVP of the league against the Detroit Lions. Obviously, we know that's not going to happen. But another fun fact is the Detroit Lions have scored the most points in the NFL, and they have also allowed the most points in the NFL. I've been telling, some of my friends that are Lions fans, like, imagine if the Lions even had, like, a top 20 defense. Because this offense isn't going to slow down. There was no DeAndre Swift. There was no Amon-Ra St. Brown. There was no DJ Chark. There is no Jameson Williams. There's the only top receiving option was TJ Hawkinson, who had 8 receptions for $179 and 2 scores. Jared Goff throws 4 touchdowns. Yeah, the Commanders' jerseys are pretty. They're pretty hot. And the Detroit Lions continue to roll on offense. The problem again is they didn't address the defense in the offseason. Aiden Hutchinson is. Look, Aiden Hutchinson got 2 pressures on Sunday. I know a lot of fans are down on him. Oh, he's number 2 overall pick. He should be getting not everybody's gonna have a Michael Parsons type of rookie year. We gotta be realistic. You have to understand that. Not everybody's gonna have that. It's not something that's feasible, and that's not gonna happen. Titans get it done over the Colts, 24-17. Colts fall to 1-2-1. Jonathan Taylor goes down with an ankle injury, and he's really been a non-factor this year, which is very surprising because he's had a lot of carries. Matt Ryan put together a decent day, 356 through the air and 2 touchdowns. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the Colts. I really thought that the Colts were going to be better than a 1-2-1 team. And I thought that the Titans were not going to be a 2-2 team. I figured that the Titans would have lost this game. I had my own pick'ems. I obviously didn't talk to you guys because for those that weren't aware, there were other factors outside of football last week for a lot of us in Florida. Mo Alley Cox get it done. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what is happening with the Colts. 27 of 37, 356 and 2 scores from Matt Ryan. That's not a bad day at the office. So that with Matt Ryan under center that they're going to throw the ball frequently. Jonathan Taylor is, like I said, Jonathan Taylor's a non-factor right now. And that's the part that's really scary. And I think that, maybe they figure out how to get Jonathan Taylor going a little bit, and then they can kind of blend and mesh the passing game and the running game together, and then their offense will be good. But it's to me, it's just very, very strange. Giants get it done 20-12 over the Chicago Bears. Giants are 3-1. That to me is ridiculous. Giants were 2-0 for the first time since 2015, I think, before their their Monday night loss to the Cowboys. Saquon Barkley with 31 carries for $146. This is what you expect from Saquon Barkley, especially in a contract year. Look, I don't see Saquon returning to the Giants. Even if the Giants win the NFC East, and they happen to win a game or two in the playoffs, I don't see Saquon returning to the Giants next year. It's just the Giants still have way too many question marks. Daniel Jones is not the guy. Who do they have at wide receiver? Kenny Golladay has been a bum for 3 seasons. Damn near 4 seasons at this point. Just can't get it done. Sterling Shepard can't stay healthy. You know Sterling Shepard is good to go down at some point for the remainder of the season. Darius Slayton pops up like once every 7 games. Kadarius Toney. Who is Kadarius Toney at this point? Kadarius Toney is just a guy. Daniel Jones is definitely more of a threat on the ground than he is in the air. But you know that they're going to run the ball because he can't pass the ball and they don't have anybody to catch the ball. That's the problem. That's the problem for the Giants on offense, is that they've got zero identity. And should it run through Saquon? It absolutely should run through Saquon. The offense should absolutely run through Saquon Barkley. But we have to be realistic about the Giants, is that I think this is a Cinderella start for the Giants. And I think there's going to be a very much a come to reality moment for the Giants, unless they can figure out how to just play better. Like, we know that the Chicago Bears can't stop the run. The Packers destroyed them on the ground when they played Sunday night. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon destroyed the Bears on the ground. Saquon Barkley, you allow Saquon Barkley to get $146. So we knew this, Well, yeah, and look, and Jay in the chat says Galladay's had his moments. Yeah, but Galladay's moments are few and far between. That's the problem. Is Kenny Galladay's moments are just a couple of good catches. Right? There was a time, you got to remember, his last 2 seasons, he was number 1 wide receiver in Detroit. And then he faked an injury his last season because he didn't want to play. Because he was in a contract year and wanted to go somewhere else and get a payday. Coaxed the Giants into giving him a payday, and what does he get in return? They get a guy who cleans out his locker after they go 2-0 and throws a little hissy fit. Excuse me. Eagles get it done, stay undefeated, 29-21 over the Jacksonville Jaguars in a very wet and rainy game. If I'm a Jags fan, I'm not freaking out about Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence had 4 fumbles. They should have got the guy some gloves. They should have put some gloves on him. He was struggling to hold the ball. And this is why he fumbled the ball so much, is he was just struggling offensively to hold the ball. And we have to be realistic about the Eagles. Even the 4-0 solidifies the thought of the Eagles being the most prolific team and being the most well-rounded team in the NFL. The 4-0 record just solidifies that the Eagles are a force to be reckoned with. I've said this before, and I'm gonna rehash this. I got clowned when I was working with USA Today, and I said that Jalen Hurts was a steal in the 2nd round. I got clowned by so many people. And when I said that Jalen Hurts falling to the 2nd round was a crime, I got clowned by so many people. Last year, Jalen Hurts was the number 1 fantasy quarterback. How's Jalen Hurts doing this season? Not too shabby this season. And the Eagles are 4-0, led by Jalen Hurts. That's the long and the short of it. Jalen Hurts is a solid NFL quarterback, and the Eagles have the best overall roster, and it shows with their 4-0 start. The Jets, 24. The Steelers, 20. Zach Wilson, 18 of 36 for 252 and a touchdown. 18 of 36, that's not a good day at the office. Najee Harris, 18 carries for 74 yards. George Pickens led the way for the Steelers, 6 receptions for for just over 100 with 102 yards. Look, I know that Mitchell Trubisky got replaced by Kenny Pickett, and I'm fine with that. Mike Tomlin, is not on the hot seat. The Steelers don't fire head coaches. There's a reason why there's been 3 coaches in Steelers franchise history. Because they find a coach and they build around the coach. Tomlin's not going anywhere until he is ready to retire. Mike Tomlin is the winningest coach in his first 16 years in NFL history. Mike Tomlin's not going anywhere. Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, on the other hand, he needs to go somewhere. And it's far away from calling any team's offense in the NFL. That's where Matt Canada, that's what needs to happen. It's going to be a long season for Steelers fans unless Matt Canada gets replaced. Because they looked really bad offensively last season. I know Ben's arm was shot, but they still looked really bad offensively. They still look really bad offensively this season. And they've got George Pickens. They've got Deontay Johnson. They've got Chase Claypool. They've got Najee Harris. They got Pat Freiermuth. They've got all of these offensive weapons. And they can't figure out how to get it done? That's definitely on the offensive coordinator. So Steelers are 1-3. They're 0-2 at home. And I'm sure Steel Nation is kind of up in arms. And I just have to stress that Mike Tomlin's not going anywhere. I have to stress that and reiterate that. Bills get it done 23-20 over the Baltimore Ravens. Once again, Lamar Jackson leads the way for the Ravens on the ground, 11 carries for 73 yards. Lamar has a costly interception at the end of the game where the Bills went on the field goal because it was tied 20-20. Josh Allen, not a great day, 19 of 36 for 213 and a score. Look, you need to get legitimate wide receivers for Lamar Jackson. And we're all going to see it when Lamar Jackson comes to Tampa in a couple years. Because he'll have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And he'll have all of these guys. I'm still trying to wish that into reality. Because do you know how you counteract a poorly executing offensive line in the passing game? You have a mobile quarterback. You don't want to address the offensive line and keep it the same? Fine. Do that, because all your offensive linemen are under contract. Do that. But bring in a mobile quarterback. We saw John Harbaugh and was it Marcus Peterson get into it? Marcus Peters get into it on the sideline. I mean, oh man. Baltimore's got problems. They need to figure it out. They need to figure it out in a big way in Baltimore. You shouldn't have Lamar Jackson. Look, I know J.K. Dobbins. This is the first time J.K. Dobbins played, and he put together a decent first game. But this was the first game J.K. Dobbins played in front of a live crowd. I think the only game he played in last season was against the Buffalo Bills, and there was only 5,000 people in attendance because of COVID. Baltimore has a lot of question marks, especially for a team that is considered an AFC contender. Baltimore's got a lot of questions. The Chargers get it done 34-24 in a pretty exciting game against the Houston Texans. It's just a high-scoring game. Justin Herbert, 340 through the air, 2 touchdowns, 27 of 39. Mike Williams showed up big, 7 receptions for $120. And Dameon Pierce for the Houston Texans get it done. 14 carries for 131 yards and a score. I mean, what can you say about the Houston Texans? You know, that's the thing. Like, they're 0-3, and that's what you expect from the Houston Texans. The Chargers were shockingly, you know, they're 2-2 on the season, which is kind of a shock to a lot of people, myself included, because I was very adamant. I thought that the Chargers won in the offseason. They had a solid draft, and they were, in my eyes, probably the second-ranked AFC team coming into the season behind the Buffalo Bills. And you know, through 4 weeks, they've had a lot of question marks. It was good to see Austin Eckler get going. I think the offense, as good as Justin Herbert is, I think the offense is only as good as Austin Eckler is performing. And as much as he is implemented, because he's such a dual threat running back. He's great in the passing game, and he's a solid runner between the tackles. And he can also push it outside because he's so small and elusive, kind of like Darren Sproles was. Arizona, 26. Carolina, 16. Baker Mayfield has already turned heel. He already says he doesn't care about the fans. And the Baker Mayfield experiment in Carolina is probably coming to an end very soon. Matt Rule needs to be the first head coach to go this season. I hope for Carolina Panthers fans' sake that the Panthers don't wait until Black Monday to get it done. And I hope that he's gone sooner rather than later, because he's not a good head coach. The team has struggled every year that Matt Rule has been there. And rebuilding years, what have you, but Matt Rule's just not an effective head coach. That's what it boils down to for me, is he's not a good head coach, and he's not somebody that you need to be watching out for. He's not going to game plan properly. Because the Cardinals are not a good team. The Cardinals are a lucky 2-2. If I read you the stat line, Kyler Murray, 207 passing yards. James Conner, 55 rushing yards. Hollywood Brown, 88 receiving yards. And you tell me that that's the winning team? Those are not winning team numbers. They're just lucky that Carolina is awful. Carolina is going to finish last place in the NFC South. And I would be very hard-pressed that the Atlanta Falcons will not finish second place in the NFC South this season, because who knows what's going on with the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints should have been way better than they currently are looking, but they're struggling offensively as well. But to me, the Cardinals are a shocker at 2-2. I've said this before. You can't lose this many players. You can't lose that many pieces and expect to be solid. And they're not putting up great numbers. They're very lucky in the schedule this early in the season. That's what it is for me. Green Bay got it done in overtime, 27-24 against the New England Patriots. Aaron Rodgers, 251. Aaron Jones, 110 yards on the ground. Alan Lazard, 6 receptions for 116 receiving yards. And this is the Green Bay Packers team that you're looking for. Romeo Doubs had a chance to end it early, but he dropped that pass, which would have won me a lot of money in DraftKings if Romeo Doubs caught that. It was like a 40-plus yard touchdown pass. If he would have held on to that would have won me a lot of money. So I'm very salty about that. But the Packers are a 3-1 team, which is also, to me, is a shock, because they're figuring out how to get it done. The defense is solid, and they're just figuring out ways to get it done, and they currently are leading the NFC 3-1. Actually, they're in second place in the NFC, because the Vikings are 3-1, and the one loss for the Packers came to the Vikings. The Las Vegas Raiders finally got over the hump, 32-23 over the Denver Broncos. Devontae Adams, 9 for a $101. Josh Jacobs had 144 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. And Josh Jacobs just finds ways to just light up the Denver Broncos and annihilate the Denver Broncos on the ground. I am still very much not a fan of Nathaniel Hackett calling the offense in Denver. I feel like Russell Wilson looks like he's regressed still. I was going to chalk up last season to just kind of a struggle. He had the finger issue and just poor offensive line play. But he's not looking like the Russell Wilson. Jerry Jeudy's kind of a non-factor. We expected Courtland Sutton to be wide receiver 1 in Denver, but I really expected it to be a 1A, 1B, not Jerry Jeudy to really not be existent. So that to me is a little surprising. Is that the Denver, and Javonte Williams now tore his ACL. He's going to be done for the season. So now you're going to rely on Melvin Gordon and Boone. And Boone, how many passes did you see Boone drop in the fourth quarter? The Denver Broncos could be in for a longer season as well. Last night, 49ers. The 49ers really put the work in on the Los Angeles Rams. 24-9. Stafford had a costly interception. Cooper Kupp had 14 receptions for 122 yards. I know Cooper Kupp is a fantastic wide receiver, but how in the hell is this guy always open? How do you not double Cooper Kupp? For an entire last season, all of last season, he was wide open. We knew that Cooper Kupp was going to get the ball. So far this season, we know that Cooper Kupp is going to get the ball damn near every time. Right? Cooper Kupp on this season already has 42 receptions for 402 yards. We know that Cooper Kupp is going to get the ball, and yet for some reason, we can't stop Cooper Kupp from getting the ball. He's fourth in the league in yards. And Stephon Diggs is second with 31. Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill are tied with 31 receptions. Cooper Kupp is 42. And you know he's going to be open. You know he's going to be running routes. You know that Matthew Stafford is going to pass the ball to Cooper Kupp. And yet the guy is still always wide open. And that to me is just absolutely insane. I can't wait to see what's going to happen this week at practice for the Bucs. I'm excited to see what happens. Talk about some fantasy lineups later on in the week. Of course, tonight live. Main event is live tonight. Primetime Pelly, Radio John are back at it. Of course, obviously, they're over in the Clearwater area, so they had to make sure that they took precautions and got everything squared away to make sure that they were safe during Hurricane Ian last week. Channelside Bets was live on Sunday, live every Sunday at 11:30. Make sure you're following the Channelside Sports Network on all the social media platforms. The team is growing, more things are coming, and I could not be any more excited. Make sure if you want to help out both Channelside in terms of just marketing word of mouth, and you want to help out the unfortunate events in Southwest Florida, make sure you go to shop.channelsidesports.com. Any t-shirt that you buy, 100% of the proceeds for the entire month of October are going to be donated to the American Red Cross for their relief efforts for our friends and family to the southwest of us from down here in Tampa. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. I am Danny. We're going to do it all